There's a story where Einstein was brought into a conference and the question was posed, is the world a friendly place? And then all of a sudden everybody gets together and they basically got into two camps. No, the world is not a friendly place. Like, do you see all the shit that's happening right now? Like, heck no, the world is not a friendly place. And the other group was like, yes, the world is a friendly place. And also, as I say that, you can also think of all of the ways in which the world is a friendly place. There are friendly people in the world. And they said, well, Einstein, what's the answer? And he said, whatever you believe is true. And so that is just one of those invitations and potential paradigm shifts, ways to open this stuff up to where, again, what you focus on expands. And while all of these shitty things are happening, are always happening, and will always be happening, how can you protect that peace? How can you protect that bedroom, that connection, that intimacy, and the sex that you get to have, which then also is going to likely refuel, not likely, it's going to refuel you to go back out there in the world and take those knocks on the chin every time you see another headline. Hello and welcome to Married and Magnetic, the place for entrepreneurial couples who want to stay happily married.
In each episode, we have real conversations with ordinary couples doing extraordinary things, sharing achievements, everyday joys, challenges, and the mindset and tools that make love the greatest strategic edge.
We are James
and Angela Mitchell,
a real-life married couple. She's a counselor,
and he's a coach,
parents to 3 kids,
and co-founders of Love Intentionally. We've ridden the highs
and lows
of building businesses while working hard to stay happily married. We've lived it, done the work,
got the t-shirt,
and are here to help you do the same.
This is Married and Magnetic, where love, business, and growth collide. Let's dive in, y'all. Hello, loves. Welcome to another episode of Married and Magnetic. We are your hosts, James
and Angela.
We're the Mitchells, and we are the co-creators of Love Intentionally and this Married and Magnetic podcast. And today you get an episode with the two of us.
Woohoo!
I was looking for the woohoo, yeah. Awesome. And this is a topic that's near and dear to our hearts because this is where like the external forces of life, call it maybe even the state of the world, affects our intimacy, our life, our sex life. And so this is a really cool conversation about sex and intimacy, but the external forces of the state of the world. And is the state of the world really affecting your sex life? Is the war in Iran, the oil prices, any of that shit? Like, what is that actually doing in the bedroom?
Yeah. So I was at my book club this morning and I probably would need more than hands, at least feet and toes to count how many times the phrase, well, you know, with the state of the world came out of people's mouths. So I think it's just on everyone's mind. And whatever that means for you, whatever news headline, what am I trying to say? News headline. There we go. News headline that, you know, is referring to whether it's financial, whether it's the war, whether it's the Epstein files, whatever it is for you, the cumulative effect of all those is affecting people on multiple levels. And we want to talk about how it's affecting your intimacy and better yet, what you might be able to do about it.
What you can do about it, right? And so that's what we get to talk about because there is a lot of shit happening all the time, everywhere. You can't keep up. Some people try, some people don't try. And that can also create a little bit of tension at home. Like I've been known, I'm like, I'm just not going to watch the news. I'm going to put my head in the old sand. And then sometimes that can bring up a little tension around like, well, in myself, first of all, like, man, I need to be a good citizen. I need to know these things, but also it doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't help me be at my best. And then Angela has her own take on what's really important to stay current with.
Yeah. And I feel like that, and, you know, maybe for some of our listeners too, it can create a little bit of tension between us just on our, different views of what is the appropriate amount of current events to stay current on. You know, and I understand the line of thinking for some people. I think you would be usually in this camp of this is affecting my own mental health or my mood or my mindset. And so I don't want to take in that negativity. Totally fair and great. And sometimes I fall in that camp. Need to protect my peace. And then at other times also feeling like it is very much a privilege that is only afforded to some to be able to ignore what's going on in the world. And I generally am a person that recognizes my privilege and also wants to try to use it in beneficial ways. So feeling also maybe like a little guilt of the fact that I am able to block some of it out because it may not feel like it's directly affecting me. And then also just wanting to stay current so I understand what other people that I see out in the world might be going through, as well as like, what can I do about it? Are there things that I can be doing using my privilege to help the world situation, to help the world be a little better place, right? So I think that can be a struggle I know that I have within myself. And if we at any given moment are feeling a little different sides of that, it can potentially bring up tension there, right? Where you're like, just stop paying attention. And I'm like, I can't, that may like,
Not that
I'm
good
not,
kind of tension. We're going to get into in a little bit.
yeah. So all that to say, you might be experiencing that in
Yeah.
your home as well.
Absolutely, right? And so that's somewhat of the reality of this time we get to live in. And I feel like this is one of the most awesome and interesting and beautiful times to get to be alive on the planet. Um, Granted, there are some things happening out, but there's always some things happening out there. But how cool is it that we can connect with you? You can actually look at us right now. We have the internet, we have modern medicine, you can get your knee replaced. I mean, there's just a slew of things that make it such an awesome time to be alive. And when we focus on that, it's this idea what you focus on expands, but also bringing in space for the other thing. And so there's a little discernment in there. So the first thing that I learned whenever I got into my first job outside of real estate, I went and I was at the group real estate and I was a realtor, and I did that for 12 years. And I remember it was 2008 when I graduated, 2009 when I was really getting the balls rolling. And my mentor, Larry Kendall, said to everybody in the sales meeting, do not watch the news. Do not listen to NPR. That will kill your mindset. And this is a mindset first business. And so I've carried that for quite some time. I did find something I love. I'll share with you in a little bit about how I like to get my news so I don't completely pull the old ostrich in there. But the short of it is that media will affect your mental health. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Yeah, absolutely. And you feel that. And for some of you, you might feel it more coming from your spouse. You see what that media and those headlines and those news stories, and yes, it's the reality, sure, but like you're seeing what that's doing to their mental state, their mental health. And while it is affecting them, guess who it's also affecting?
Am I supposed to answer this?
Yeah,
I didn't know if
you.
it was rhetorical.
It's affecting you.
Yeah. And I think too, the tension that can come up in relationships is sometimes there are somewhat political differences. And even if they're not drastic ones, even small ones can create tension when you're talking about these hot button topics around the dinner table. Then I also
Like
think
I'm all for this ballroom, like for example.
oh my gosh. Anyway, case in point. I hope you're joking. Anyway, then there's also the piece that, and this can happen often in heterosexual relationships, but also in same-sex relationships, that there can, based on who you are and some of your past and experiences and identity, the news might affect you differently than it does your partner, right? And so the most obvious example for me, and that's something that had come up for us recently, is because several of the news stories in the last, 6 months or so have been centered around violence against women, right? Whether it's the Epstein files or whether it was the, what was that? The Rape Academy, that online website. So some of those stories come out. And I was explaining to James, for me, when I read those stories, it's not so much as just like oh, that's really terrible. It's like I viscerally feel it in my body and I feel unsafe, like feel unsafe in my skin when I read some of those things happening because I identify as a woman and because we have daughters. So,
How sexy is that?
yeah, no, it makes me feel vulnerable. I don't like it's hard then to engage in intimacy when I'm feeling unsafe in my own body and that the world is an unsafe place for me and my daughters, right? Similarly, it could be, if your partner or you is an immigrant, especially if you or happen to be one that has brown skin and an accent, right? Like you may not feel safe in the world right now, a lot of different factors. So those different identities can really affect how we might be metabolizing, for lack of a better word, the
like
news.
how close it hits to home.
Yeah.
Because while they still hit me, because I also have daughters,
Mhm.
right? They are our daughters. And it just also doesn't hit the same. I haven't had that lived experience. And so honestly, like I don't really even realize it. I don't know. And so I'm having like what I think is a normal conversation about this news situation, like, oh, this is fucked up, and then all of a sudden it can create like
I'm like crying.
yeah, and she's like crying and overwhelmed. I'm like, oh shit, now my wife's crying. Like, what did I say wrong? And it's not that I really said anything wrong. It's just that the perceived wrongness of this world that we live in can get really embodied and metabolized. And then all of a sudden, like, if we're not careful too, it starts to feel like a disconnection between us.
Yeah, and then you also throw in like financial insecurity, a lot of people just being unsure about that world right now. And is AI going to take all of our jobs?
You got to
And
take my job.
right.
And there's like $8 a gallon gas in California right now. Shout out to California.
And so that like insecurity can also create an environment where we don't feel as open to intimacy. Intimacy can be a vulnerable thing, even if it's with your lifelong partner, right? And so there's just these uncertainties and insecurities that are floating, fears floating around that we're getting on the constant news cycle that can really affect our ability to be open to intimacy. And that goes for both partners.
Because we're all living in uncertainty. That's really what it is to be alive. And there just feels like there is a lot more uncertainty and a lot more of those, like the one thing that can bring the house of cards down, crumbling around us, whether it's losing a job, whether it's the volcano in Yellowstone, whether it is ticks and what they're trying to get done right now. There's just always something. And especially because we have so much information moving so fast right now, we have more uncertainty, and that uncertainty creates more fear. And then underneath all of that is a lack of presence. And then when that shows up, when it's time to be intimate, when it's time to have sex, we're trying to battle our way and climb our way uphill so much. And while we can still manage to get through that in some ways, we are robbing ourselves of the depth that is possible in that particular sexual connection.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up presence, because I think that's the other thing. In addition to like the fear and insecurities that it can bring up, it steals our presence too, right? Which is a key component of actually having connective intimacy and sex versus just a physical experience, right? Is our presence. And so when the news and the state of the world is stealing our presence in so many ways and keeping us in our head rather than our body, when we actually do share intimacy, it can feel less connected because we're not fully embodied for it.
Yeah, and there's so much like interesting aspects to this, and we're going to switch into momentarily like what you do about it, because
Yes, it is not hopeless.
It is not, and this is what happens. And there's a story where Einstein was brought into a conference, and the question was posed: is the world a friendly place? And then all of a sudden, everybody gets together, and they basically got into two camps. No, the world is not a friendly place. Like, do you see all the shit that's happening right now? Like, heck no, the world is not a friendly place. And the other group was like, yes, the world is a friendly place. And also, as I say that, you can also think of all of the ways in which the world is a friendly place. There are friendly people in the world. And they said, well, Einstein, what's the answer? And he said, whatever you believe is true. And so that is just one of those invitations and potential paradigm shifts, ways to open this stuff up to where, again, what you focus on expands. And while all of these shitty things are happening, are always happening, and will always be happening, how can you protect that peace? How can you protect that bedroom, that connection, that intimacy, and the sex that you get to have, which then also is going to likely refuel, not likely, it's going to refuel you to go back out there in the world and take those knocks on the chin every time you see another headline. So what we do about it.
Yeah, let's give you a little hope here, because there are some tools and strategies that can help with this.
Guaranteed one of you in the relationship watches the news more than the other.
Yeah.
Right.
So I would say the first thing, and again, these boundaries are different for James and I, but I think personally it is important to have some boundaries around your consumption of media. So for instance, I do like to stay generally informed on what's going on in the world. I have decided that for me, what that looks like is I get an email once a day with the headlines. So I know the kind of big things going on. I'm not turning on the TV news. I don't know if people still do that. Maybe not in our generation, but our parents.
Where does that email come from?
Well, I think that's less important what your chosen news outlet is.
Well, I do think there's somewhat of an importance in the headlines, because the headlines reflect the news outlet's stance.
Right. And I think that's where people can choose where they feel like is a credible source to get their media. And that might differ for different people.
I got one for you. This is where I used to not watch any news. And I do want to stay a little bit more informed these days. There's an email that comes out. It is called 1440. It's a daily email. And it has the headlines without any fluff, any spin. It's just like, this is what's happening. And there's a link if you want to read more. And then there's also some entertaining pieces in there. And so the 1440 daily email I find to be the least or the most neutral in this is what's happening.
Yeah, that's fair. So, yeah, so I think for me, it's that. I don't consume visual news very often because that is sometimes harder for my sensitive soul to digest.
Unsee something.
Yeah, I can read, and I have been guilty. I have seen on social media some of the videos, and it is really hard to unsee them, and they're very disturbing. And so I think there is, and maybe there's a time and place for that. But for general daily consumption, I read headlines so I know what's going on, but I am also protecting my own mental health in that way. I do not consume media when I first wake up or before bed. So it's usually more of a midday or afternoon activity in my world. Sometimes when I'm done with the workday, I might scroll my email for that, but I don't want to do it first thing in the morning because it sets the tone for the day. And I don't want to do it before bed because it destroys my sleep. And the other thing that I think we do as a couple that is helpful is we do not take screens into our bedroom.
No scrolling in bed.
I have my phone in the room as my alarm clock,
Yeah.
but I do not look at my phone in our bedroom. So
Sacred space, yeah.
Yep, it is a sacred space. It is reserved for resting or intimacy, but it is not for doom scrolling. So that is a physical boundary we have in our house around media consumption.
Highly recommend that. That one, I could see some people like, I wish I had that, but man, I can imagine their face when I ask them or request them or demand of them to no longer do that.
Just send them this podcast.
Just send them the show.
We can say it for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Take your phone out your bedrooms, y'all.
Yeah. And then the second thing I would say, do you have anything more on that?
It feels good.
Okay. The second thing I would say is we have to have a way to move through and process these emotions. So I think what can happen is that we are picking up these little energetic, negative things from the media, maybe throughout the day, right? Like I look at social media and I see a few things, and then I read the headlines, I see a few things, and then I have a conversation at the office and there's a few things. And right, I'm like picking up all these things throughout the day, and they're just really kind of slowly building in my body without any sort of way of processing them or releasing them.
It's like burrs. And if you've ever walked through a burr patch and you look down at your pants or your socks, you're like, holy shit, where do these come from? Like,
so we're accumulating burrs throughout the day. And so I think one thing that can be important, whether this is for sex and intimacy or just your general mental health, is to have a practice of moving that, right? So the 3 ways to move energy are...
These are the only 3 ways that I have found, or anybody has really found, that exist to move the energy and those feelings and the tension from inside your body to outside your body. And they are: number 1, breath; number 2, sound; and number 3, movement.
In no particular order, though.
Yeah. So breath, sound, and movement. And you can do one at a time, breath work. You can do one at a time, sound, singing, right? Just like in the shower singing. Movement, you can go running, right? Which is also going to involve some breath as well, especially if you're me. But guess what my favorite way to do breath, sound, and movement is all in the same time?
Dancing and singing and breathing?
Sex.
Okay.
just so we're clear.
Mine would probably be dancing and singing. Yeah.
So
whatever your preferred method is, right? Yoga involves movement and often sound because you're listening to something, and breath work at the same time, right? So whatever the tools you have to, it could be even just going for a walk, at the end of the day before dinner or whatnot.
Nature is the only thing that really puts energy back into you. So if you're going to be trying to move energy out of you, breath, sound, and movement, if you want to get some energy put back into you, nature is the only thing I've really found, and maybe dogs.
Yeah. So, and I would say if you don't have some sort of routine around one of those, start small because it's the most likely way it's going to stick. So maybe it's you blast some really feel-good music, your favorite song on the way home from work, and just sing at the top of your lungs, right? But what's an easy thing you could do just to do that breath, sound, or movement?
And I think it's also wise to acknowledge that when I feel down, when I feel the heaviness of all of these things, well, it could be just a day at the office, whatever, like the stress. And we're talking about the stress that the state of the world is doing. So when I'm feeling that stress, the last thing I really want to do is turn on a song and dance and move my body. I just kind of I want to get stuck in it, right? But that's the point of what we're talking about, is how to unstuck yourself so then you can be available for that one thing in your marriage that makes you more than roommates.
Yeah. And then I would say the other thing to remember, and this kind of goes back to what I was talking about before, is how you and your partner might be experiencing and feeling the news differently based on your identities. So if you are with someone who is definitely feeling the heaviness of the world, I think it's important to allow space for that. If you just try to tell them to like feel better and stop looking at the news, that's
Focus
not
on
going to go well.
something else.
Yeah.
Just, babe, what
That's
you focus on expands. Get over
probably
it.
not going to go well because they will probably react being like, you don't understand, right? You don't see me. You don't see who I am. This is a part of me. And so part of connection is helping each other feel seen. So I think there's that moment where, like, I'll use us for example, if there is something heavy in the world and I'm feeling it, for James to like go like,
Validate.
ugh, validate. Yeah, that's terrible. Like, I get that. I see how hard that could be. I can't even imagine what it would be like to be a woman right now.
Totally
Right? Those kind
understand
of
you're
things.
feeling the big feels right now, babe.
Yeah. And then so allowing the feelings, validating them, and then creating a sense of safety, right? Because oftentimes when we're feeling really heavy around those things, it's because we might not be feeling safe. And so creating that, like James can give me a hug and say, like, I've got you, I'm here.
Everything's going to
Right.
be okay.
Yep. And creating that sense of safety can help bring me back kind of into my body, help me feel emotionally safe.
And so this is where we're getting the nervous system ready to be able to meet each other in this sexual intimacy component. And when we start working with the nervous system, what we're really talking about is we're slowing down, right? Instead of trying to jam through it or fix something, it's
Or bypass
hearing.
it or
Yeah,
yeah.
tuck it away, right? We're going to hear it, we're going to validate it, we're going to see them and hear them, right? And so slowing down is one of these aspects of like the sensual aspect. And so when life has been throwing a lot of life and the state of the world is really throwing a lot of heavy on, I think one of the best ways, like of the sensual erotic, of the erotic blueprints, the sensual one is going to be an easier door to access as a first door, because the sensual is all about textures and touch and smells and tastes. And it's not like all hot and heavy and like,
And those are all things that bring presence, right? It's like those are all things that when we talk about mindfulness, we use the senses to get back into our bodies, right? And so if someone's in their head about all these things, the sensual side of things can help them get back into their body.
absolutely. So use that as the first door. And once that door opens and we get present, we get in our bodies, then other doors of those erotic blueprints can open. If you don't know what they are, we'll just Google them right now,
But
but
it's
like, we're not
yeah,
going to dive in.
it's probably not the time to be like, honey, I was thinking about trying BDSM, right? While they're
Yeah.
all, if that hasn't been something you've
just-
been doing, right? Throwing something new,
Or even just going
might
straight for the boobs, like slow down,
warm up.
like, yeah, a lot more warm up. And I'm not talking even about that normal foreplay that you do where you make out for a second, and then you go to second base, and then you go to third base, and then you round for home. It's really creating a different touch system in the body. And you can even just, I mean, this is where like something soft in the house, a feather, just like really bringing a lot of attention to the skin.
Grounding touch, grounding massage.
Because you don't need to fix anything in order to create the intimacy. It's just creating presence in the body.
And the other thing that is happening simultaneously, which we can and probably will do a whole episode on, is responsive desire versus spontaneous desire, right? So it's something that's very normally our bodies as we age, as our relationships age, and I just mean like the longer you've been together age, we are shift from this spontaneous, like, oh, he just gave me that flirty look and now I want to have sex, to this responsive desire. And responsive desire is really about creating the conditions and then creating the space for intimacy to unfold. So we might not start off feeling like super sexual, but we create the space, we create the energy, we create the safety, and then see what happens, right? And oftentimes, once those conditions are created, then our bodies start to respond to that kiss a little differently and go, oh, okay, maybe I am open and available for this. So just that is happening alongside this anyway, if you're in a long term relationship. And I think, especially during times that feel heavy, spontaneous desire is just not as available because our nervous system isn't relaxed. It is not as available. And so in these times, responsive desire becomes even more important. And that, again, looks like a lot of the stuff we've been talking about. It's okay, well, let's give each other massages and then we'll just see how we feel. And if we feel open to it afterwards, great. And if either one of us is not open to it, fine. That's great too. So it removes pressure, it creates safety, it creates the environment, and that then it can evolve into.
And sometimes we hear this idea that on average, men are like a light switch in order to get turned on. Women are like a crock pot. It takes them a little while. And that's really where the spontaneous comes in. And so one of the visuals that I have when I'm like, okay, let's get some of that responsive desire going. Like I want to build a fire. And by the time we actually have sex, I want that fire to be roaring, right? I don't want to try to get up in there while we're still lighting the kindling. Like it's just not the same. We don't have the same connection. It doesn't hit the same. It doesn't scratch the same itch. And so I view myself, I'm like, all right, like I can see what's been happening. There's been some shit in the news. There's been whatever in our own lives, our business. And so I'm going to build a fire and I'm going to do this from scratch to give her an opportunity to respond to my moves.
And often, so what does that look like? What do you do that helps create the conditions for responsive desire?
Great question. I mean, to stick with the analogy and then to give you the real
No,
stuff. Yeah, we'll give you the real stuff. But like, I'm doing everything from like sometimes chopping the tree down to splitting the wood to getting the kindling to like picking it all up to lighting the fire to blowing on it, just like anything that's necessary. And so a lot of times in the morning, what that looks like is when she wakes up in the morning, I will give her grounding touch, which is like deep pressure while she's laying on the bed. One of the things that she loves the most is basically like I'll straddle her, but I will take my hands and put both of them on her hips and I'll just push down. And that's all it is. It's just like, hey, let me ground you into your body. Then throughout the day, there might be not a sexual thing at all, like that we're not to that point yet. The fire is not like it won't light if I try to get sexual. And so it's like, hey, you look beautiful today. Hey, thanks for taking care of that thing today. Thanks for like just acknowledgement and praise for you.
Appreciation.
A lot of appreciation and a lot of seeing the hard work that you're doing, which works especially as we work together anyways. Like what a great thing to do to continue the connection and to also build you up when it's time. And like say we get home, like, okay. Oh, by the way, about afternoon, I'll give her a cup of coffee. Babe, here's your favorite caffeinated chai beverage from the local shop here in town, our favorite #mugs. And then once we get home, like, okay, what needs to happen to create the space for us to be able to be done with life when the kids go to bed? So I allow her to put some of the mental load, and then I can start to like help with that or really pick up where I want and can. And then about an hour before, we're going to be able to go down like our little basement area to get intimate down there. I'll go turn the heater on. Like
I don't like to be cold.
No, like if I want to see her less clothed, we need more warmth. So an hour before, I'm doing that. I'm making sure we have a water bottle down there. I'm making
set
sure
the physical space.
I set the physical space. And oh, by the way, if you're curious, like, okay, I want a checklist for this, we do have a free resource called Sex for Busy Couples. And that's something that you can have and just take it and just do the checklist in there because all of these things are in there. But I dial in the music, I dial in the smells. I'm like, great, go take a shower. Let me handle this while you're going to rinse off. And so all of these things. And then once we're in the space, we'll usually slow down a minute. We'll do some breathing together. I'll do some more of that grounding touch. We'll do some eye gazing together. One of the things that we do enjoy in order to bring presence in when we have sex, I'm going to tell them.
I don't know what you're going to tell them. So
smoke weed.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's a really great way to bring the presence and ourselves into the body. And just like one of the times that Angela will engage in that particular activity. And so I'll have that ready to go. And so all of these things that help her to show up and fully experience pleasure over our almost 17 years together, I have amassed this list. I mean, it didn't take that long, but just take what you've got and what you know they like and also ask. Like, let them listen to this and say, what would actually work and resonate for you? And so that's how we get that fire stoked and going. And that's before we even start like making out, right? The responsive desire in my world, spontaneous desire can create some amazing, like hot and flashy sex. Spontaneous desire creates a
responsive desire.
Yeah, responsive desire creates a lasting version of that.
Yep. And then to that point too, one thing we do and we recommend is we schedule intimacy. So we schedule it once a week And I think especially when things feel heavy, whether it's personally or because of the state of the world, knowing that we are going to have intimacy, like if we have it scheduled for Wednesday night, then I start mentally preparing myself on Wednesday as well. So James is doing all those things over on his end to create the conditions for safety and desire. And I am also doing the things on my side to mentally prepare, right? So maybe I do, if I'm feeling a little anxious or heavy, maybe I do need to go for a run, right? Maybe I want to take a bath or like do something relaxing. Maybe I want to have that cup of caffeine in the afternoon because I want to have energy that night. So I start doing things mentally and physically to take care of myself so that I am also able to show up in that space. And a rule that we have with it is that we are scheduling intimacy, not sex.
Correct.
It almost always ends up in sex, but knowing that it is not the expectation.
It's because of my moves. So.
Yeah, it's because of your moves. Helps release the pressure, right? Because if I was feeling like I was going to have to, and then I'm like, oh, but I'm all in, this is going on and this, then it would create this unnecessary pressure that would put the brakes on our intimacy, right? So knowing that I could get to that point and go, yeah, so I'm available for massages and that's about it tonight, right? Like, okay, great, right? Or let's just cuddle on the couch, right? Like, so we're still having some sort of intimacy, some sort of connection, but it doesn't have to be sex, releases the pressure, which makes me actually more open to sex. If that makes sense.
So what I heard you say is that when you release the pressure, you get to release the pressure. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. Yeah, I think everybody knows what you're saying. So, all right, loves. So I hope that was helpful. I know that things can, feel heavy. And I think also just a challenge I would have for people, and this is not just intimacy related, but is, if we just listen to the news and the headlines, I think it's really that, Einstein example, it's really easy to see the world as an unfriendly place. And sometimes if we just go for a walk around our neighborhood and we say hello to neighbors, or we strike up a conversation at a coffee shop, or we start engaging with people around us, we can suddenly realize that the world is a lot friendlier than we might think it was. So look for the good. It's all around you. And we hope this was helpful. James did mention we have Sex for Busy Couples as one of our resources. We'll put it in the show notes, but you can find that in our school community. That is skool.com/loveintentionally. So it's our free community and we have free resources in there in the classroom, one of them being Sex for Busy Couples, but we'd love to have you in there and snag some of those resources as well.
So thank you for listening. I hope this has resonated with you on a deep level. And if this has resonated and brought somebody else to mind, go ahead and share that love with them, y'all. Let's make sure that we are all doing our best to take care of ourselves so we can be our best in our relationships. Because if you want to bring your best to your spouse, to your partner, to your lover, you got to be at your best first. And then once we start working on that, then we can get down into some of these processes and the structures of how we're actually being able to show up better for our intimacy. And then we'll keep double clicking on intimacy, y'all. This is really, to me, like one of the most important aspects of relationship because it embodies so much. There's healing involved there. There's connection involved there. And it's that one thing that we do that makes us more than just awesome partners in life and roommates. Blah. That's how I feel about that. So thank you for listening. Love you. If you haven't yet, please leave a review for the show. We'll see you on the next one, y'all. And until next time, may your life and love be magnetic.